With Trump stuck on the Iran issue, Zelensky has turned his attention to striking at the heart of Putin's capital, sharpening the conflict's political stakes. Kyiv bombed a Moscow skyscraper in a move that some are describing as capable of permanently ending peace talks. The attack came just days after the Putin-Trump phone call, adding fresh tension to an already fragile diplomatic backdrop. Has Zelensky angered Putin just ahead of Russia's Victory Day celebration? A drone on May 3 struck a skyscraper not far from Moscow's business district, bringing the attack deep into the Russian capital. The drone hit the house, a 52-story residential building on Mosfilmovskaya Street, according to reports from RT. Moscow's mayor Sergei Sobyanin confirmed that there were no casualties, easing immediate fears after the strike. The attack came ahead of Victory Day, which is one of Russia's most important public holidays and carries deep symbolic meaning across the country. Every May 9th, Russia holds a parade in Red Square to mark the Soviet victory in World War II, making any attack ahead of the event especially sensitive. Eyewitnesses told RT that they heard a powerful explosion when the drone struck the building, describing a sudden and alarming blast. Some eyewitnesses said they saw a flash in the sky and smoke rising from the building, adding to the sense of panic in the area. Ukraine has stepped up strikes deep inside Russia in recent weeks, according to reports, signaling an expanding campaign of pressure. Nearly 600 drones were launched by Ukraine toward Russia over the weekend, underscoring the scale of the attacks. Meanwhile, Ukrainian strikes also killed 2 people in Russia's Belgorod region, according to reports, further widening the toll of the conflict. Kyiv targeted vehicles and commercial buildings with kamikaze drones in Belgorod, broadening the reach of its attacks inside Russian territory. 2 civilians were killed and 4 others were injured in Ukraine's strikes, according to the Russian government. The casualties were confirmed by Belgorod Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov, as reported by RT. One of Ukraine's kamikaze drones struck a married couple and their son, turning the attack into a devastating family tragedy, according to reports. The father and son were killed on the scene, while the wife was hospitalized after the strike. A young man and a teenage girl were also injured in an attack in Gubkin City, according to reports. The girl was hospitalized with a brain injury and remains in critical condition, raising further concern about the severity of the strike. Nearly a dozen residential buildings were damaged, according to the Belgorod governor, adding to the destruction caused by the attacks. Russia has previously accused Ukraine of deliberately targeting civilians, intensifying the war of words between the two sides. In April, Russia warned Kyiv's backers that continued aid could lead to further escalation, as Moscow sought to pressure Ukraine's allies. Meanwhile, Ukraine's president hit out at what he described as an anti-Ukraine movement coming from Belarus, adding another layer of tension to the wider regional conflict.
Шановні українці, українки, була доповідь міністра внутрішніх справ України Ігоря Клименка про роботу наших служб, які допомагають українцям після російських ударів. Жорстокі удари були сьогодні в Херсоні, дрони проти цивільного транспорту були влучання по маршрутках. На жаль, є загиблі. Мої співчуття рідним та близьким. Є поранені, усім надається необхідна допомога. На Миколаївщині було влучання по об'єкту енергетики, теж російського дрону. До ранку вдалося відновити постачання електрики. Були також удари на Дніпровщині, Одещині, Сумщині і в Харкові. В інших наших містах і громадах. Всюди оперативно працюють наші рятувальники. ДСНС України, Національна поліція допомагають. Я хочу відзначити також наші екіпажі, які забезпечують евакуацію з території, де ведуться бойові дії. І також напередодні була доволі специфічна активність на ділянках кордону України та Білорусі, з боку Білорусі. Уважно все фіксуємо, все контролюємо. Якщо буде потрібно, ми будемо реагувати. Україна готова захищати своїх людей, свій суверенітет, і кожен має це розуміти, кого намагається втягнути в будь-яку агресивну активність проти України. Хороша розмова була щойно з прем'єр-міністром Словаччини Фіцо. Ми цінуємо, що Словаччина зробила кроки для розблокування європейського пакету підтримки для України та 20-го пакету санкцій проти Росії. Треба, щоб у нас були сильні двосторонні відносини зі Словаччиною, навіть тоді, коли дійсно бувають розбіжності у поглядах. Ми обговорили можливості зустрічі та роботу на міжурядовому рівні. Я, до речі, в команді пропрацювати всі деталі. Ще декілька речей. Ми готуємо нові санкційні рішення, кілька санкційних пакетів на сьогодні, на найближчий час. Ми продовжуємо нашу роботу з партнерами в Європі, на Близькому Сході, в Затоці, в інших частинах світу, з усіма, хто здатен посилити українську протиповітряну оборону та забезпечити Україні більше економічної сили. Ми очікуємо від перемовин у травні вагомих речей. Була доповідь головкома Олександра Сирського по нашій далекобійності. Є влучання важливі. Я попросив подякувати воїнам за результати. Я дякую всім, хто з нами, хто з Україною. Я дякую всім, хто працює заради нашої держави та хто воює заради України. Слава Україні!
US President Trump and Putin had a phone conversation on April 29th amid the raging wars, underscoring how multiple crises were colliding at once. While Putin offered help regarding Iran, Trump reportedly asked Russia to end the war in Ukraine first, making the exchange even more politically charged. The call, which lasted for more than 90 minutes, was described by longtime presidential aide Yuri Ushakov as frank and businesslike, suggesting both candor and a clear focus on hard security issues. Officials say the leaders concentrated heavily on rising tensions in the Middle East, particularly over Iran, during their conversation on April 29th.
I talked about Ukraine, and I talked a little bit about Iran. I talked about a few different subjects, mostly about Ukraine, and we had a very good conversation. I think we're going to come up with a solution relatively quickly, I hope.
What does he want?
I think you'd like to see a solution, I can tell you, and that's good.
What involvement does he want to have in the Iran situation?
He told me he'd like to be involved with the enrichment if he can help us get it. I said I'd much rather have you be involved with ending the war with Ukraine.
Putin welcomed Trump's decision to extend the ceasefire with Iran, calling it a constructive step that could give negotiations a chance and lower the immediate risk of escalation. Yuri Ushakov said, and I quote, "The presidents paid particular attention to the situation regarding Iran and in the Persian Gulf." Vladimir Putin considers Donald Trump's decision to extend the ceasefire with Iran to be the right one, as this should give negotiations a chance and, overall, help to stabilize the situation. Putin highlighted the inevitable and extremely damaging consequences not only for Iran and its neighbors but also for the entire international community, should the US and Israel resort to military action once again. Russia is firmly committed to providing every possible assistance to diplomatic efforts on the Middle East war, unquote. Putin cautioned that any renewed US or Israeli strikes on Iran would trigger severe consequences and risk blowing up the fragile calm in the region. He stressed that fresh military action would not just hit Iran, but could undermine global security, energy markets, and wider international stability. Moscow, he said, remains committed to backing diplomatic efforts, insisting that only talks, not bombs, can pull the Middle East back from the brink. The call then shifted to Ukraine, where the war has now dragged into its fifth year since Russia's 2022 invasion. At Trump's request, Putin outlined the battlefield situation, claiming Russian troops still hold the strategic initiative and are pushing Ukrainian forces back. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov said both leaders voiced strikingly similar views of President Zelensky and Ukraine's leadership, accusing them of prolonging the conflict. The war, however, has left vast destruction across Ukraine and killed thousands of civilians, with no clear end in sight. During the call, Putin floated a temporary ceasefire to coincide with Victory Day celebrations marking the defeat of Nazi Germany. Trump backed the proposal, saying a pause in fighting on that day would honor the memory of wartime sacrifice on both sides.
Donald Trump spoke positively about the Easter ceasefire recently announced by Russia. Regarding that, Vladimir Putin informed his U.S. counterpart that he is ready to declare ceasefire during the Victory Day celebrations. Trump actively supported the initiative, noting that the holiday marks our shared victory over Nazism in World War II. Trump stressed the importance of ceasing hostilities in Ukraine as soon as possible and that he is willing to do everything possible on his part to help achieve that. His close aide will continue contact with both Moscow and Kyiv. Donald Trump believes a deal that would end the conflict in Ukraine is now close. At Trump's request, Vladimir Putin described the current situation along the line of contact, where Russian forces, holding the strategic initiative, are pushing back the enemy's positions. He also mentioned that since the start of 2025, Russia has handed over more than 20,000 bodies of those killed to Ukraine, while Ukraine has returned just over 500 to us. Both Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump expressed broadly similar assessments of the actions by the Kyiv authorities led by Zelensky, who they said, encouraged by Europeans and with their support, pursue prolonging the conflict. The Russian leader said straight that Kyiv was resorting to openly terrorist methods, attacking purely civilian facilities on Russian territory. The president again reaffirmed that the goals of the special military operation would be achieved in any case. Of course, this would preferably come as a result of a negotiating process. For that, Zelensky would need to respond positively to the well-known proposals that have been set out repeatedly, including by the U.S. side. The president's focus on the situation around Iran and in the Persian Gulf. Vladimir Putin finds Donald Trump's decision to extend the ceasefire in Iran to be right. It should give negotiations a chance and help stabilize the situation. Russia is firmly determined to provide comprehensive assistance to diplomatic efforts in search of peaceful solution of the crisis, and proposed several ideas aimed at settlement of disagreements around Iran's nuclear program.